welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Steelers Nation, we are live at the 2022 NFL Combine. This is All Steelers Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Donnie, we're 3 days deep, mentally exhausted. Talked to about 400 prospects, it feels like at this point. Bunch more the next 2-3 days. How you feeling here at Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis?
No, you asked for soldiers, and so now we're in the trenches. So big shout out to all Steelers for letting us hit the 2022 NFL Combine. Exactly like what you said. I feel like we've talked to everybody and their mother. The only thing that kind of makes up for it is the phenomenal food that we've had down here and will continue to have down here in Indianapolis. And I just love being in a place where nothing matters but football. So it's been a nice little getaway from the day-to-day life that is a average to below average writer such as myself.
It is definitely nice in the background here. Donnie's got the nice little backdrop there, the NFL Combine. He's literally sitting at a podium. We snuck our way on here.
I'm probably going to sneak onto the podium and get my picture taken after this too.
I think it should. So for those of you who don't know, we weren't cool enough to get on Radio Row. That's next year. So we made our own little Radio Row here. We came into the podium. I'll show everybody a little bit what's going on here. So this is where all the magic happens. This is what's going on every day. And then behind me here that's Radio Row. That's where the bench press is taking place. That's pretty much where everybody's hanging out right now. Donnie's chilling literally on one of these podiums right now. We need to get away from each other because it's just real awkward staring each other in the face. Yeah. That being said, the last 3 days, we have seen this room more than we have seen the inside of our eyelids. And it's been great. Mm-hmm. It's been a great time. And unfortunately, we got to talk about something that maybe everybody doesn't want to talk about. Maybe everybody's a little quiet, a little sick of talking about. It's the quarterbacks for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But this time there's a little twist. Just a little change of topic. It's no longer who should the Steelers draft. It's what hand size should the Steelers be concerned with. Malik Willis will not test down here in Indianapolis. Instead, he's going to wait for his pro day. I personally think that is a bad move for Malik Willis, but we'll get into that. Kenny Pickett measured in today. 8.5-inch hand size would be the smallest quarterback hand size in the NFL. Donnie, is it a concern?
Yes and no. I also do want to point out that Pickett would have the smallest hand size since Michael Vick came out, and we all know what kind of passer Michael Vick was just in terms of launching the football. Kyler Murray also has a small set of hands, and he seems to be able to throw the football very well. And look, I get it. I get the concerns about his hand size, and whenever he's navigating through the pocket with the smaller hands, he might struggle to, secure the ball a little bit more. But at the end of the day, that boils down to ball security. And, if Kenny Pickett's pocket presence wasn't good at Pitt, then this would definitely be a discussion. But I feel like he was fine navigating the pocket behind his 5 offensive linemen. And so, his small hands are just whatever. I understand he's double jointed, and I understand we're at the point of the draft process where we are going to nitpick everything. But when evaluating quarterback play, I just feel like at the end of the day, Kenny Pickett's hand size should but shouldn't matter at the same time.
So I agree. Coming into today, I thought didn't really matter. Then a stat was brought to my attention that I didn't know was a real thing. First off, shout out Derek. Derek's been down here with us all week as well. Appreciate his efforts. Hand size. Okay. 8.5 inches. No big deal. In my book, it is what it is. I don't really know what the big deal is. If you could grip a football, you could grip a football. The Pittsburgh Steelers know better than anybody that Kenny Pickett can obviously hold on to the football. And then I found out that Kenny Pickett has 26 fumbles in his 5-year college career. And even with 2 gloves, very concerning. That is a statistic to me that is very alarming. Maybe not alarming to everybody. I don't mean he shouldn't be in the NFL. I don't mean that he's not a first-round quarterback. I just simply mean that if you're a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who plays in freezing cold, if not windy and rainy weather most of the time, maybe a guy who fumbles the ball because he can't hold on to it super well is a guy that you don't want at quarterback. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I definitely understand. And it was funny because I was waiting for Arizona State running back Rashad White to speak to media members today on the 3rd day of the Combine. And there's a media member sitting next to me. and we were talking about Kenny Pickett's hand size, and he showed me a text from a source within Pitt that said he didn't have a hard time gripping the ACC championship trophy, which I thought spoke volumes. Because at the end of the day, Kenny Pickett was a winner at college level, at least in his last season at Pitt. And you know what? At the end of the day, if he can grip a football, he can throw a football. It's cool with me.
I mean, I agree. And I like I said, I don't think it's going to make him slide out of the first round. I don't think it's really going to affect his draft stock much. I personally think that Malik Willis not running the 40-yard dash or testing at the NFL Combine doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm Malik Willis, I'm trying more than ever to just show everybody in one situation, hey, I am the best quarterback in this draft, and that should be known to everybody instead of waiting. I think Kenny Pickett has an opportunity now to say, look at guys, maybe I have tiny hands, but I can do everything that you need me to do. I'm exactly who you thought I was. And all this talk is just talk that has built up anxiety because people need things to talk about for the next 2 months, and my hand size happens to be it.
So I do agree with that, and I also do want to get into the whole Malik Willis thing. I thought it was a little bit weird at first that he decided not to test. He's still throwing at the combine, surprisingly, but he's not going to be running, the 40, the 3-cone, whatever other test that you might think of. It's a little bit weird to me at first, but the more I think about it, he's already pretty much the established athlete in this quarterback class. What more does he need to prove to put himself even further, athletically speaking, ahead of guys like Kenny Pickett, ahead of guys like Carson Strong, Sam Howell, all the rest of the quarterback class? He really doesn't need to do a whole lot just in terms of running the football and being an athlete. Now, whatever it translates to his accuracy, his arm. We know he's got the deep arm. I was a little bit surprised he opted to not wait until his pro day to throw, given that he already had to establish rapport with his receivers. And at the NFL Combine, you're basically just working with a bunch of nobodies, you and me, basically, whenever it comes to throwing the football. So
much
for him
more
to
talented,
bank,
me and you.
Oh, no, most definitely much more talented. I couldn't even get out of high school ball. But at the end of the day, Malik Willis is obviously a very talented passer, and he's banking on his arm to show out tonight right here in Indianapolis. I think starting here in about 15 minutes.
About 15 minutes here. I agree that he should be throwing. I think we lost Don here. I'm not sure what happened. So I agree that he should be throwing. I also agree that he should be running. And I get what you're trying to say here is that he's already established himself as the prime combine Donnie. I'm not really sure what's going on here with Donnie's camera, but I'm going to keep talking. So he is the established athlete in this quarterback class. That being said, there are questions about who is the top quarterback overall in this draft. And I get waiting to your pro day. I understand that. But it's also, you have to consider that Ole Miss and Cincinnati's pro day is the same day as Liberty's, and Pitt is the day before. So now you have scouts spread out. Say Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert, and this is just an example within the Steelers. Say Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert say, we want to go to Ole Miss because we have not seen Matt Corral do anything yet, and we need to get eyes on Matt Corral. Now you just have a normal scout there while Malik Willis is showing off his athletic ability. I'm not going to say it's hurting him. I'm just saying that this is his opportunity to say, I am the best quarterback in this draft class, and I don't believe that he's taking it. So that being said, Matt Corral is a guy that did impress a lot of people at the podium. I've heard a lot of good things from Steelers fans since that. I do think he has the best opportunity to be there at 20. Do you think that this week has kind of put him back into that conversation of maybe the top or maybe the number 2 quarterback here in the NFL draft?
Yeah, and I think that's all going to boil down to the testing tonight, because I feel like forever it's been the debate between Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett for QB1 and QB2. Matt Corral's kind of slid down the board a little bit, and let's not forget, Corral was kind of in that quarterback 1 debate before he had the injury in the bowl game. And obviously that depends on who you talk to. Still, a lot of people had Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis at number 1 prior to that, but I feel like Corral was at least a little bit more relevant in those conversations. Then you go to the Senior Bowl where Corral decided not to go just because of the injury that he suffered, and then he's still not participating in everything athletically going on here. Still waiting for, which is actually an interesting topic as well. Why show up here if you're afraid that your medicals aren't going to clear? Because that's a very big underrated part of the NFL Combine. Not a lot of people like to talk or discuss. The medical examinations are probably more important, I would argue, than a lot of the stuff people like to see on TV.
True. I would agree with that one. I think the interviews are very heavy on his mind right now. And like he said, he wants to show teams that he understands football as well as anything. it's a high ankle sprain, so there's nothing broken. I feel like, it's rather easy to overcome, but I agree with you there. If he does go to these team doctors, you have to remember that if the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Detroit Lions or the Baltimore Ravens or whoever say, go get an exam done for me, he has to go do that. And that's their doctors, wherever they send him. And in that moment, if he doesn't clear, that's what they have on record. And that's something that they'll hold for the next 2 months. So that could hold him back. Maybe he's just very confident that he will clear all that stuff. I still don't know why. I mean, I get why he wouldn't throw. I just think that I agree with you.
I think what was really interesting, listening to Carson Strong talk, and he was asking about his medicals, and he said, look, you're in a room with not just 32 doctors, 32 teams worth of doctors. And he talked about how maybe some teams may have thought that his knee checked out fine, and other teams probably are telling them to avoid Carson Strong at all costs. It just, varies on a team-to-team basis. And maybe Corral didn't want to subject his knee to that kind of fluidity that Carson Strong had to this week.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the same thing for Matt Corral. That's something that, we don't know. I don't even know if the quarterbacks, do you get that information to you? Are teams like, hey, you did fine in that evaluation, or you think they keep that to themselves? At the same point, I don't know. Strong, I feel like, is a different situation because it was a very severe knee injury, whereas I feel Corral, not super significant enough to keep him out, but not super, super significant. I think there was torn ligaments or, anything more than a high ankle sprain, it'd be a different story. There's a lot of pressure, though, and this is something that I wanted to talk about throughout the week. Is Matt Corral now has one opportunity to show that he is quarterback one in this draft class. I get that he's throwing with his wide receiver, so he's most comfortable with them. But if you're Kenny Pickett and you don't throw well here, well, you could throw well at your pro day, and that's a totally different story. Malik Willis, if he doesn't throw well here, he could throw well at his pro day. That's a totally different story. If Matt Corral throws poorly at his pro day, that dude could slide 2-3 rounds in 2 seconds. This quarterback class is extremely close. Even if it's not super talented, it's very, very close. Do you think there's a possibility he takes a dip?
Yeah, I do think that possibility probably isn't as great as a lot of people would think, because it's going to be very, very hard to tank your pro day. And to kind of touch on the point that you had brought up, a lot of the guys here, it's going to just come down to how confident they are. Because if you can come here to Indianapolis and ball out at the combine throwing the football, you're going to have a very good pro day. Everything and all the workouts are going to be scripted to your favor. So that this could be the icing on the cake for any of these quarterbacks getting ready to throw here in a couple of hours.
True. I agree. We will see. Before we move on, I want you to read that one, Donnie. I want you to read that one, and I want you to just say thank you to my boy Nick Soma, because I appreciate you. Thank you, Nick.
Also, if you see me close out, that is not me raging over Mitch Trubisky. My phone might die while we record, so I will 40-yard dash right across the podium right to you.
Fantastic. I'm glad Donnie's having a great time here. While we take a break real quick, let's talk about some Manscaped. Can I get a round of applause, everybody? Today, I'm excited to announce Manscaped launched their Ultra Premium Collection. Believe it or not, it's time for your not-so-private parts. I'm talking about a leveled-up hygiene routine with your favorite manly scent. This all-in-one skin and hair care kit is the everyday man's and covers you up from head to toe, literally. Manscaped is trusted below the waist. Now trust them with the rest. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust the Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code ALLSteelers. Donnie, you've used Manscaped now for like 2 months. How you feeling about it?
I'm feeling really good about it. I'm even more thankful that they're sending us even more stuff, like some of the things you had already just talked about. I'm really excited to just try, not even just like the Manscaped part of it, but just like the everyday stuff, like the lip balm. I mean, that's wild. I would never think that Manscaped has lip balm, but I mean, one, if they're going to send it to me, absolutely. And two, if they're as good as any of the other products that they have given us, go for it.
We're excited. We all know the essential. The Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 is for the precise trim below the waist. Their advanced skin safe technology reduces cuts for your most delicate areas. But now, you can enhance your perfect grooming routine with the Ultra Premium Collection. This package includes Manscaped's premium deodorant, not for your balls, for your stanky armpits. This deodorant is dry clear, is aluminum free, and it smells like their signature scent. Their hydrating body moisturizer. Have tattoos or issues with dry skin? It's designed to keep skin feeling clean, smooth, and smelling fresh. Body wash to lather you up with their infused aloe vera and sea salt shower gel. And their 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner to clean your scalp with an easy one step. Plus, a free gift. A 3-pack set of lip balm that's made with ingredients such as vitamin E, peppermint, and eucalyptus oil to keep those chappers feeling moist. That's 4 products plus a gift inside the Ultra Premium Collection. What a score. All these products are cruelty-free, paraben-free, and vegan-friendly, and dye-free. The best ingredients with zero compromise. I'd recommend using their products in this order. 1, hop in the shower and scrub a dub that body with Manscaped Body Wash. 2, lather your hair up with 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner to keep your noggin togging. 3, dry off and spray on that hydrating body moisturizer to rejuvenate the skin. 4, put on Manscaped deodorant for obvious reasons. 5, pop that Manscaped lip balm on because no one is out here kissing chapped up lips. Getting dressed afterwards, it's optional. Wear one great scent all day long. Get the Premium Ultra Collection hot off the shelves. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code ALLSteelers at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code ALLSteelers at manscaped.com. The power of attraction is now in a bottle, thanks to Manscaped. All right.
The most impressive part of that was you nailing eucalyptus on the first try. It's a big word for
Dude, that took me 4 tries before we jumped on here. Let me tell you that. 4 tries to say the word eucalyptus. That was a rough one. That whole read was definitely a rough one. We'll get better on that.
Yeah, bro. That's a gauntlet.
4 takeaways. Day 3. We're day 3 here in Indy. Okay. Kevin Colbert talked. Sounded a lot like Juju Smith-Schuster is coming back. We talked about that a couple of days ago. Then we discovered the next day that every wide receiver in the book has talked to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yeah, interesting, maybe not interesting, until we showed up today and realized that 0 running backs have talked to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which makes you think maybe the Steelers are not going to add some help for Najee Harris, at least not through the draft, but they are going to add a wide receiver. What's your big takeaway from a bunch of wide receivers, no running backs?
So what I will say is, talking to a lot of these guys here in Indianapolis, I don't know if it's just them being burnt out. I don't know if it's them not wanting to speak of who they talk to out of fear or some kind of reprimandment. But I mean, you ask these guys what specific teams they talk to, and they just blank. Like they are not going to give you some solid answers. Yeah, and like maybe if you ask them specifically, hey, have you talked to the Steelers? They will be able. Words are hard. It's a big word for them. They'll be able to give you a simple yes or no answer. Like, for example, Rashad White today said, he didn't talk to the Steelers and said, quote, they already have their guy for the future at the running back position, alluding to Najee Harris. What I will say, though, is that I think you touched on this in the last podcast we did. Regardless of if Juju comes back, I do think they are going to add receiver help. And I think you were the one that suggested it could come as early as the second round for Pittsburgh, which would be, I think, a little bit too early for my taste. But if you really feel like you need to upgrade the wide receiver position, if Matt Canada is really going to have his hands on the offense like we think he will heading into this year, I mean, that fourth receiver might be very, very vital. But I mean, receiver over running back, not surprising at all in like the latest sense. But, you still need to add running back help. None of the guys behind Najee Harris are really convincing for me. So, I mean, I do anticipate them to at least try to go get a guy in the draft, if not for free agency.
Yeah, I think that it kind of opened my eyes that the Steelers might add a veteran running back. Now, big thing here. It cannot be another D'Angelo Williams situation where the dude is a proven baller, could come in here and actually run the football, and then you never give him the football. Najee Harris is a great running back. You want to know why Le'Veon Bell got hurt all the time? Because D'Angelo Williams was a great running back who was never touching the football. Najee Harris needs a D'Angelo Williams, but he needs him to be used properly. That's always been Mike Tomlin's biggest handcuff, I guess, when it comes to offense, is somebody saying, is a bell cow running back. It's 2022. Runners are more agile and strong than they've ever been. A bell cow running back does not last in this league. So they need to go get somebody. But I think it opened my eyes that maybe they're going to go and dig into free agency. When it comes to the wide receivers, I agree with you, though. Second round pick. I feel like you have some thoughts here on the running back.
Yeah, so the more we talk about it, the more it does make sense to bring in a veteran guy. I mean, think behind the Steelers depth chart, behind Najee Harris, who's really that like veteran running back that can really kind of show Najee the ropes and take him to the next level?
Kalen Ballage, bruh.
All right, everybody, thanks for listening so much to another episode of All Steelers Talk.
There is none. You could say Benny Snell Jr., but he has done nothing over his time.
No.
I get he is now a veteran. And if you want to keep him as a third option, fine. Even though I feel better with Anthony McFarland, who hasn't proven anything himself, you don't have a number two.
Benny Snell is like a lot of my family members. They just show you what not to do. You feel like, hey, like here's an example of like what not to do. That's basically Benny Snell.
What about Adrian Peterson?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, obviously, for Najee to learn from a great like AP, that would be phenomenal. I still feel like AP would want to get a few touches a game, and that just would not fly with me. So sorry about it, AP.
So you want wait. So you want Najee to have a backup without the backup getting reps?
I meant like significant touches. Like Adrian Peterson wants like 15 carries a game, and that's just not something that's feasible for a guy at his age and at his stature.
I agree. I don't think it is. But I think that if you could compromise and say, hey, you're going to get 10 touches a game, I think somebody needs to have 10 touches a game behind Najee Harris. If you could get 10 touches a game, I feel pretty good about AP being back there. Plus,
that's absolutely
him
fine,
and Najee
but
work out together.
Go get somebody who's a little bit fresher and younger, who could probably make a bigger difference than a guy like Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I agree. That part I do agree with. It's if you're thinking longer term here, and you could sign a guy to a 3-year deal or something who is a veteran, but is a younger veteran, that's a much better option because I don't know what that list looks like, but I do know that if there is somebody here who could work with, I mean, if Adrian Peterson clicks with Najee Harris, and that's a perfect 1-2 punch, you have one season before Adrian Peterson turns 37 years old and is officially time. There's no more time. You cannot be a running back in the NFL at 37 years old. Fred Jackson did it, and that man was invincible, but nobody is Fred Jackson. Adrian Peterson wouldn't work out like that. You need a younger option to just say, hey, okay, if it works, then we have you again next year. It could work again, especially if the Steelers aren't going to draft somebody, which it doesn't sound like they're going to draft somebody. So I agree. Maybe AP, not the move. Not, at least not the best move. If it's a 1-year option and the Steelers are thinking maybe next year's running back class, or we have more needs that we have to address this year than we do next year so we can get a running back, then we can feel that. But I don't feel confident about that right now.
But like switching over to the receiver talk, though, I mean, it seems like they've talked, like you said, to a whole lot of receivers up here in Indianapolis. So they are definitely doing their homework. And I do want to point out one thing. Just because a team meets with a guy does not necessarily mean that they are going to draft a guy. Mike Tomlin, I remember him specifically mentioning that, they do scouting reports on almost everybody. And if they don't draft said player, they at least have that scouting report if they are going to face said player in the following couple of years. I mean, like a number of players have signed with the Steelers, and Mike Tomlin and the rest of the Steelers organization have referenced those notes they got from him at the scouting combine, just as kind of like a little basis for them to move forward and kind of build on that before they make a decision on the player.
Yeah, I agree. And that's big, but it also, I think it opens the eyes that they're not doing their homework on the running backs. They are doing their homework on wide receivers and offensive linemen and quarterbacks. Sky Moore, big name. Derek has been very excited about him. I think that's definitely a big option.
Derek's
for
probably
the
like
Steelers.
Really upset right now that we're not like talking like super in-depth ball about like anybody we talked to today. We're just like glossing over like the super basic like topics.
There's too many topics to talk about. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is not, at least here, is not like, oh, who's running, who's doing this, because all that stuff is taking place across the street right now. We're here talking about who we talk to. And the biggest thing I took away from today was that you had to ask who has talked with the Steelers, because if somebody said no, like Brian Robinson, perfect example. I asked him a couple of questions about Najee Harris, or he was asked a couple of questions about Najee Harris, some of mine included, and he had great answers. And then I asked him, did you meet with the Steelers? And he said no. And I was like, well, everything we just talked about was a waste because if you don't come to, if you don't come to the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's no point in you and Najee having that connection because it means nothing. You're going to be somewhere else. And I just think a lot of other players, when it comes to the wide receivers, I think that they will add somebody. Here's a fun fact. They did not talk to Juju Smith-Schuster at the NFL Combine. So it doesn't mean that they're not interested in you. It just means that maybe they've done too much homework on you already and they don't need to do any more. At the same time, I think with this draft class, with how deep it is at a number of positions, if you're not taking as much time with a player as possible, it's a clear sign you ain't it. Yeah, at least you ain't it for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, definitely. And I think we've kind of touched on already, like it all kind of hinges on who they send their like major front office people to, whenever like all the pro days are going to be around. Because like that's basically the criteria that'll narrow it down to who the Steelers are really, really looking at. But I think, again, like Carson Strong said the best during his press conference here earlier yesterday, sometimes like the team you think that's going to draft you right now will not draft you. And the team that won't even look at you, is going to be the team that probably ends up taking you. I think Chase Claypool had a very similar situation, correct? Like he did not expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to take him.
No. Yeah. He had no idea that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to take him. And maybe that's just their plan of approach. Best player available. And maybe that's the way that they're thinking with positions like the running back, where it's deeper into the draft. And they're thinking, all right, well, this guy's here and he had a phenomenal college career. He had a great time at the Pro Bowl or at the NFL Combine, excuse me. Let's take a chance on him. Second round, that's a big of a jump, but it is what it is. One last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here. The offensive linemen. One thing I took away a lot today is that the offensive linemen that the Pittsburgh Steelers talked to seem to be interior linemen, not a bunch of tackles, one or two tackles, but mostly guys who could play across the interior, and then guys like Kenyon Green who are big enough to maybe bounce outside, but will likely be playing guard. I think it just kind of shows that the Steelers are looking for versatility, but they need those guys that could play on the inside and change that landscape. A lot of guys, I don't know who Dale Dribble is, but he's having a great time in the comments right now.
I can't see
a lot of times you will ask a guy, hey, where has a team? I mean, Kenyon Green is a prime example of this one. Asked him where the Steelers told him he would be playing, and he said pretty much across the offensive line. Like he will be tested out everywhere, including center and tackle. Tyler Lindenbaum is set to meet with the Steelers today, actually. So I think they're looking for a guy who could come in here, maybe add some options. And I think that's where we are right now with them in the offensive line. Is tackle class might not be as strong as we expected, and the interior is too strong. So they're just saying, hey, if we got 10 options, at least we have options.
I think we were talking about that off the podcast a little bit earlier, how, if you feel comfortable with almost any like position group for the Steelers, it might be their tackles. Dan Moore Jr., the 4th round pick last year, I think played well enough to kind of anchor that position, at least heading into 2022. Chukwuma Okorafor looks like he's pretty much, he was better than any other option that they did have last year. Would it surprise me if they went and got another right tackle? No, not at all. And I wouldn't be opposed for them drafting one early either if it means upgrading the entire offensive line. But color me shocked that an interior offensive line of Kendrick Green, Kevin Dotson, and Trey Turner just didn't get the job done last year. So certainly doing their homework on the interior offensive lineman. Like I feel like versatility has always been something that they have valued, just like the bottomless pit of names that they have either added through free agency or through the NFL draft. I feel like the Steelers have always plugged and played their guys, whether it's a center playing a guard or vice versa. Versatility definitely valued at the next level.
I agree. I think it also might be clear, at least somewhat of a clear indication, that Kendrick Green could be a center again in 2022. Because if you add a guy like Kenyon Green and you're just hoping that Kevin Dotson works out, then Kendrick Green has to play that center position. I think that they're not sold on moving him to guard yet, which we don't know. It takes a long time to develop as a center when you never played center before entering the NFL. Maybe that's all that they're looking for. Adam's got Ryan Jensen in here. I think that would be a great signing as well. We don't know what the free agency market's going to look like right now. Like we know who will be there or who will likely be there, but the league year doesn't start for another 10 days. So the Steelers might go make a splash signing. I think right now, where we stand, it would be safe to assume that they're going to add a guard with versatility, but they're also going to plan like Green is going to stay at center. I don't know if I like it, but I think that's their plan. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the offensive line?
I mean, just touching on Linderbaum, I feel like if they draft Linderbaum, I know there's been some speculation that they might try, not they, but just like any team might try to move him to guard if they want him to play immediately, depending on the center situation. I feel like if they do somehow like Linderbaum, you got to start him at center and then move Kendrick Green to guard. I know you just said it might be a little bit too early to think about moving Kendrick Green to guard, like the reasons that you just talked about. But I mean, if you get a guy like Linderbaum, who is coming into the draft classes, a very, very highly thought of center. I mean, he's supposed to be projected as one of the best center prospects to come out in probably the last decade. I feel like you just can't take a risk by moving him to guard. Stick him at center, put him where he plays best, and just figure everything else out from there.
Yeah, Linderbaum is the top option for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he will remain the top option for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chances are there's zero chance he's going to make it to 20. But I'm starting to think that this combine is going to change up the rankings a little bit. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that maybe shift, including some quarterbacks. I would not be surprised. Look, at the way I look at it right now, there is definitely a possibility the Pittsburgh Steelers take the first quarterback at 20. Do I feel real good about that? No, but I'm saying it's definitely a possibility. If it happens, I'll be pretty upset. Could you imagine taking the first quarterback at 20? Could you imagine
That'd be wild.
Class being so bad that you have to take it at 20 and you still do that?
I just don't think that's going to happen. I know this quarterback class is not kind of up to par with the rest that we have seen, but guys every year always establish words are hard again. Establish themselves in the quarterback class and in just the draft class in general. And like right around that pick 10 area, you are going to see teams move up for quarterback. Like that should not be a question.
Yeah, you believe that there will be teams that move up for a quarterback this year? I'm not doubting you.
Absolutely. Especially at like picks number like 6 or 7, where those teams are like at least trying to think about moving out. It absolutely would not surprise me at all for somebody to move up to like pick number 6 or pick number 7 and go get either Pickett or Willis. Do
you believe the Pittsburgh Steelers could be one of those teams?
No, I think that's a little bit too far out of the range to go from like 23 to 6 or like 23 to 7. It's going to be a lot for them to move up and kind of go get the capital, especially if the other team knows that they're going to move up and take a quarterback. There's going to be a very premium price tag. And I just don't think the Steelers, 1, are going to pay it, and 2, can pay it.
What about 1 to 11 or 1 to 10 to jump up and beat Washington?
Then that's like a little bit more kind of like fathomable, because like I've always pointed out the Bills moving up to get Allen, Chiefs moving up to get Mahomes. Like it can be done. It just all depends on the philosophy of Kevin Colbert in his final draft. By the way, that'll be really interesting to monitor to see if he changes up anything, or if he's willing to kind of let the dice fly. And not because it's his last draft and he's kind of saying whatever, but I mean, this is the first time where the Steelers are going to be looking for a franchise quarterback in a very long time. So if there's any draft, any offseason to do anything out of the ordinary, this is it.
This is it. And Kevin Colbert said that he would like to leave the Steelers with a franchise quarterback, but he will not push any agenda at all to go and draft a quarterback if the Steelers do not need or have an option at quarterback. Let me make sure I word this right. Have an option at quarterback that he believes is valuable enough. And I think in this NFL draft, there is not a quarterback valuable enough at all. Before Donnie's phone dies, we're going to jump out of here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to a live from Indianapolis at the NFL Combine episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Like this video. Be a friend. Tell a friend.
There we go.
We'll see you tomorrow.